The crack of a rifle shot pierced the evening air as Olivia Ross ducked behind the counter of her general store, heart pounding against her ribs. A year after fleeing her husband's brutal grip, she'd built a fragile new life in Cherry Creek, Nevada, a life now threatened by the man who'd sworn she'd die alone and forgotten when she dared to leave him. "You can't hide forever, Livy." Thomas Blackwell's voice bellowed from the street, slurred with whiskey and rage. "No one wants damaged goods. You'll die alone, just like I promised." Olivia pressed trembling fingers against her lips, tasting the salt of tears she refused to shed. The year was 1876, and divorce was scandalous enough without the humiliation of Thomas hunting her across 3 territories. Her small store, purchased with money she'd secretly saved over years of marriage, had been her salvation in this dusty mining town. Now, it felt like a trap. The shop bell jangled as the door swung open. Olivia reached for the shotgun hidden beneath the counter. "Madam, you all right in here?" The voice was deep but gentle, nothing like Thomas's alcohol-roughened growl. Olivia slowly rose from behind the counter, shotgun aimed steadily. The man standing in her doorway wore a trail-worn duster, his broad shoulders blocking the fading daylight. His face was partially shadowed by a battered Stetson, but she could see the concern in eyes the color of a summer sky. "I'm not looking for trouble," he said, keeping his hands visible. "Saw that fella taking shots at your window. Sheriff's got him now." Olivia lowered the shotgun slightly. "Thomas is at the jail. If that's the drunk making all the fuss, then yes, madam. Sheriff Donovan hauled him in about 2 minutes ago." The stranger removed his hat, revealing sun-streaked brown hair. "Ethan Dawson just rode into town. Olivia Ross." She finally lowered the shotgun completely. "Thank you for checking on me, Mr. Dawson. Just Ethan, if you don't mind." His eyes took in the broken window, the scattered merchandise. "Seems you could use some help cleaning up." Olivia shook her head. "I couldn't impose, no imposition. Been riding 2 days straight. Could use something to do with my hands besides hold reins." There was something sincere in his weathered face that made Olivia nod despite her caution. "Very well, Mr. Ethan. I accept your help." As the stranger began gathering the items Thomas's rage had scattered, Olivia studied him. He moved with the easy grace of a man comfortable in his own skin, nothing like Thomas's puffed-up swagger. His hands were calloused but careful as he righted bottles of patent medicine and stacked cans of preserved peaches. "Your husband?" he asked, nodding toward the jail. "Ex-husband. Or so the papers say." Olivia swept broken glass into a dustpan. "Thomas doesn't accept that a woman can leave him." Ethan nodded, not pressing further. "Window needs boarding up before nightfall. Got any lumber out back? Some crating wood." "It won't look pretty, but it'll do until the glazier comes next week." She hesitated, then asked, "Are you staying in Cherry Creek long?" "Hadn't decided. Looking for work. Spent the last few years driving cattle up from Texas, but I'm getting too old for those long trails." He smiled, lines crinkling at the corners of his eyes. "Thought I might try my hand at something less nomadic. Cherry Creek's growing, the silver mines bringing in new folks every month." Olivia found herself warming to the conversation despite her usual reserve. The livery might need help. Mr. Peterson mentioned his back's been troubling him. They worked together until dusk, boarding the window and restoring order to the shop. By the time they finished, Olivia felt something she hadn't experienced since before her marriage: ease in a man's presence. "Can I walk you home, Miss Ross?" Ethan asked as she locked the store. "Mrs. Ross, actually, and my rooms are just upstairs. Then I'll bid you good night." He settled his hat back on his head. "Lock your door tight. Sheriff said he's holding your ex until morning." "He'll be back," Olivia said softly. "He always comes back." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we'll deal with that when it happens." The "we" hung in the air between them, surprising them both. "Good night, Mrs. Ross." "Good night, Mr. Dawson." She watched him walk away, his silhouette merging with the deepening shadows of Cherry Creek's Main Street. True to Ethan's prediction, Thomas was released the following morning. Olivia learned this from Mrs. Henderson, who stopped by to purchase baking soda and share the latest gossip. "Sheriff put him on the eastbound stage with a warning not to return," Mrs. Henderson said, counting coins into Olivia's palm. "Though between you and me, that man never did take warnings to heart." "No," Olivia agreed. "He never did." The bell jangled as the door opened and Ethan stepped inside, hat in hand. "Morning, ladies." Mrs. Henderson's eyebrows rose with interest. My, don't believe I've had the pleasure." "Ethan Dawson, madam, just passing through." "Margaret Henderson, I run the boarding house down the street." She gave him an appraising look. "Need a room, Mr. Dawson. Already arranged one at the hotel, but thank you." His eyes met Olivia's. "Came to tell you Peterson's taken me on at the livery. Said your recommendation carried weight." "Did he? I'm glad." Olivia felt a flush rise to her cheeks under Mrs. Henderson's curious gaze. After Mrs. Henderson departed no doubt to spread word of the handsome stranger, Ethan examined the boarded window. "Peterson says the glazier should be here by week's end. Said I could help you install it properly if you'd like." "That's very kind, but I can manage." "Never doubted that, Mrs. Ross." His smile was warm. "But 4 hands work faster than 2. Over the following weeks, Ethan became a fixture in Cherry Creek. He proved skilled with horses at the livery, and Peterson soon trusted him with the more spirited animals that came through. Townsfolk noted how often his errands took him past the general store, and how Olivia's usually guarded expression softened when the tall cowboy entered her shop. For Olivia, Ethan's growing presence in her life brought both comfort and anxiety. She'd sworn never to trust a man again after Thomas, yet she found herself looking forward to Ethan's visits, his quiet conversation, his respectful manner. One afternoon in late May, as they shared coffee at the small table in the back of her store, Olivia finally asked the question that had been troubling her. "Why are you being so kind to me, Mr. Dawson?" Ethan looked surprised. "Do I need a reason?" "Men usually do." Her fingers tightened around her cup. "Thomas was charming too at first." Ethan set down his coffee. "Mrs. Ross, Olivia, I'm not Thomas. I don't know what he did to make you fear kindness, but I assure you I want nothing from you except perhaps your friendship." "Is that all?" The words slipped out before she could stop them. His eyes held hers steadily. "For now, I respect what you've built here, your independence. I wouldn't presume to want more unless you did." "And if I did," Olivia hardly recognized her own boldness, "then I'd count myself fortunate." He reached across the table, his fingertips just brushing hers. "But there's no hurry, Olivia. We have time." The moment was shattered by the shop bell. Sheriff Donovan entered, his expression grim beneath his gray mustache. "Mrs. Ross, Ethan," he nodded to each of them. "Got word from Carson City. Thomas Blackwell was spotted there 2 days ago asking questions about stage routes to Cherry Creek." Olivia's blood ran cold. "He's coming back." "Appears so. Thought you should know." The sheriff twisted his hat in his hands. "I'll keep an eye out, but—" "But you can't watch forever," Olivia finished. "I understand." After the sheriff left, Ethan remained silent, watching her. "You don't have to stay," she said finally. "This isn't your problem." "What if I want it to be? Don't be foolish. You barely know me. I know enough." Ethan's voice was quiet but firm. "I know you're brave. I know you built this business from nothing. I know your laugh is rare but worth waiting for." His eyes never left hers. And I know I'm not walking away because some bully thinks he owns you." That night, alone in her rooms above the store, Olivia paced restlessly. Thomas would come, that was certain. He'd never accept that she could thrive without him. In their 8 years of marriage, he'd systematically crushed every independence she'd shown, every friendship she'd formed. Leaving him had taken courage she hadn't known she possessed. The bruises had faded, but the fear remained, fear that now mingled confusingly with the warmth Ethan's presence stirred in her. Morning brought no answers, but it did bring customers and the routine of commerce that had become her anchor. By midday, Olivia had almost convinced herself that the sheriff's warning was premature. Perhaps Thomas had changed his mind. The illusion shattered when the stage arrived at 3 o'clock. From her doorway, Olivia watched passengers disembark. Last to step down was Thomas, his once handsome face flushed with drink even at this hour. He scanned the street until his gaze locked with hers. The smile that spread across his face sent ice through her veins. Olivia retreated inside, locking the door behind her. Her hands shook as she reached for the shotgun. "Olivia," Thomas's voice boomed from outside. "Is that any way to greet your husband? Go away, Thomas," she called. "The divorce is final. You're not welcome here. That paper doesn't mean a thing, and you know it." His voice moved closer to the boarded window. "You're my wife until I say otherwise." "The law says different." "The law," he laughed. "What's the law done for you, Livy? Has it kept you warm at night? Has it given you children? You're nothing but a dried-up spinster playing shopkeeper." Each word struck like a physical blow. They were the same taunts he'd used throughout their marriage, whenever she'd mentioned children, blaming her for their childless state, though the doctor in Denver had quietly told her the fault likely lay with Thomas. "You'll die alone, Livy," Thomas continued, his voice dripping with false concern. "No man wants another man's leavings. At least with me, you'd have protection, respectability." "I'd rather die alone than spend another day with you," Olivia replied, her voice steadier than she felt. A crash against the door made her jump. Thomas was trying to break in. "You ungrateful bitch," he shouted. "After everything I gave you." "The only thing you gave me was scars," Olivia thought, backing away from the door. The wood began to splinter under Thomas's assault. Suddenly, another voice cut through the commotion. "That's enough, Blackwell. Ethan." Olivia felt a surge of both relief and terror. Thomas was drunk and dangerous. She didn't want Ethan hurt because of her. Through the damaged door, she could see them facing each other in the street. Thomas, shorter but stockier, weaving slightly on his feet. Ethan, tall and solid as a pine, his stance relaxed but ready. "Who the hell are you?" Thomas demanded. "Friend of Mrs. Ross," Thomas snorted. "Mrs. Blackwell, you mean, and she doesn't have friends, never could keep them. Seems to me she's well respected in this town." Ethan's voice remained calm. "Unlike some I could mention. Mind your own business, Cowboy. That's my wife in there, ex-wife, and she's made it clear she wants you gone." Thomas's hand twitched toward the gun at his hip. "You betting her?" "That it? You can have her when I'm done. Always was a cold fish anyway." Ethan moved so fast Olivia barely saw it. One moment Thomas was sneering, the next he was on his knees, Ethan's fist having connected solidly with his jaw. "Don't talk about her like that again," Ethan said quietly. Thomas spat blood. "You're dead, mister." He reached for his gun, but Ethan was faster, kicking the weapon from his hand. It skittered across the dirt street. Sheriff Donovan arrived, drawn by the commotion. "What's going on here?" This man was trying to break into Mrs. Ross's store, Ethan explained, stepping back from Thomas, after making threats against her person. Thomas struggled to his feet. "She's my wife. I have rights." "Ex-wife," the sheriff corrected. "And the only right you have is to a cell until you sober up." He looked at the damaged door. and to pay for repairs before you leave town, permanently this time. You can't do this to me." Thomas lunged at the sheriff, who sidestepped neatly and brought his club down on Thomas's shoulder, dropping him to the ground again. "Assaulting an officer. That's another night in my jail." The sheriff hauled Thomas to his feet. "Come along quietly now, or I'll add resisting arrest." As they disappeared toward the jailhouse, Ethan approached the store. "Olivia, you can open up. It's over for now." She unlocked what remained of the door with trembling hands. When it swung open, Ethan's concerned face came into view. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Olivia shook her head. "Just my pride and my door. We can fix the door." Ethan gently took her hands, examining the red marks where she'd gripped the shotgun too tightly. "Your ex has quite a temper." "You haven't seen the half of it." Olivia pulled away, suddenly self-conscious. The entire town would be talking about this by supper time. "You shouldn't have intervened. He's dangerous when he's been drinking." "So I gathered, but I couldn't just stand by." Ethan studied her face. "Has he always been like this?" "Not at first. He was charming when we met. I was 17, naive. He seemed so worldly." Olivia busied herself straightening merchandise that had been disturbed during the confrontation. "By the time I saw his true nature, we were already married. And leaving a husband isn't something decent women do. Yet you did. When the alternative became worse than scandal, yes." She touched her collarbone unconsciously, where a thin scar remained from the night Thomas had broken a whiskey bottle and held the jagged edge to her throat. "I ran the night I thought he might actually kill me." Ethan's eyes darkened. "I should have hit him harder." Despite everything, Olivia found herself smiling. "Violence isn't the answer, Mr. Dawson. In my experience, Mrs. Ross, sometimes it's the only language men like Thomas understand." He touched the splintered door frame. "I'll get some tools from Peterson. We'll have this fixed before nightfall." True to his word, Ethan returned with lumber and tools. Several other men from town joined him, Mr. Peterson from the livery, young Billy Thompson from the bank, even old Mr. Jenkins from the barber shop. By sunset, Olivia had a new, stronger door with an iron bar that could be set across it from the inside. "A fortress fit for a queen," Billy declared proudly as they finished. "Thank you, all of you," Olivia said, touched by their support. After the others left, Ethan remained behind. "Would you allow me to escort you to dinner at the hotel restaurant? After today's excitement, cooking might be the last thing you need." Olivia hesitated. Being seen dining with a man would spark talk, especially after the day's events. Reading her thoughts, Ethan added, "We could request a private table, or I could bring something back for you if you'd prefer." "No," she decided suddenly. "I won't hide. Dinner would be lovely, thank you." The hotel restaurant was Cherry Creek's finest establishment, with white tablecloths and a French chef lured from San Francisco by the promise of silver wealth. As Ethan predicted, their entrance caused a stir of whispers and glances, but he guided her to a corner table with a protective hand at her back. "Everyone's staring," Olivia murmured as they sat. "Let them. You've done nothing wrong." Ethan opened his menu. "Besides, they're just jealous I'm dining with the prettiest woman in Nevada territory." Olivia blushed. "Hardly that. I disagree." His blue eyes were warm over the top of his menu, "though I admit I'm biased." The meal passed pleasantly, their conversation flowing easily from Ethan's cattle driving days to Olivia's dreams for expanding her store. "I'd like to add a proper pharmacy section," she explained, warming to her subject. "We need a trained pharmacist in Cherry Creek. People shouldn't have to ride to Carson City for proper medicine." "You have a good head for business," Ethan observed. "Most storekeepers just stock whatever the drummers sell them." "I learned from my father. He had a store in Ohio before he died." Olivia sipped her wine. Thomas hated that I kept the books for his ranch, said it wasn't womanly to concern myself with finances. Sounds like Thomas was threatened by your intelligence, perhaps. She'd never considered that perspective. What about you? Does a woman with opinions bother you, Mr. Dawson? On the contrary, I find it refreshing. Ethan's smile was genuine. My mother ran our family ranch for 15 years after my father died, taught me that capability has nothing to do with whether you wear trousers or skirts. As they finished their meal, Sheriff Donovan entered the restaurant. He approached their table, hat in hand. "Evening, Mrs. Ross, Ethan. Sorry to interrupt your dinner." He looked uncomfortable. "Thought you should know. Thomas Blackwell's lawyer arrived from Carson City, posted his bail. They're staying at Wilcox's boarding house on the edge of town." Olivia's appetite vanished. "He's free, technically. But I warned him to stay away from you and your property. His lawyer seems a sensible sort, trying to convince him to return to Carson City tomorrow." "Thank you for telling me, Sheriff." Olivia's voice sounded distant to her own ears. After the sheriff departed, Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. "You're not alone in this, Olivia. It's not your battle. I'm making it mine." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "If you'll let me." Looking into his earnest face, Olivia felt something she'd thought Thomas had destroyed forever: hope. The next morning, Olivia opened her store as usual, refusing to let Thomas's presence in town disrupt her routine. She'd slept poorly, jumping at every sound, the iron bar Ethan had installed firmly in place across her door. Around mid-morning, the bell jangled as a well-dressed man entered. His expensive suit and gold watch chain marked him as an outsider in the frontier town. "Mrs. Blackwell." "I'm Hiram Finch, your husband's attorney." He removed his derby hat. "My name is Ross, Mr. Finch. I resumed my maiden name after the divorce." "Yes, well, about that." He set his briefcase on her counter. "Mr. Blackwell contests the validity of those proceedings." "He was not properly notified, because he was drunk in Virginia City when the papers were served," Olivia interrupted. "The court found the divorce valid in his absence after 3 notifications were published in newspapers." Finch looked surprised at her knowledge of legal matters. "Nevertheless, my client wishes to reconcile. He's authorized me to offer generous terms." He withdrew papers from his case. "He's prepared to forgive your indiscretions and restore you to your proper place in his household. In return, he asks only that you sign these documents transferring ownership of this establishment to him, as is his right as your husband." "Ex-husband," Olivia corrected coldly. "And I earned every cent that purchased this store after I left him. Thomas has no claim to it." "A wife cannot own property separate from her husband. I am not his wife. The court dissolved our marriage 14 months ago." Finch's expression hardened. "Mrs. Blackwell Ross, my client, is being exceedingly generous. The alternative would be a public lawsuit that would ruin your reputation in this community. Is this store worth that? Get out, Mr. Finch." Olivia pointed to the door. "And tell Thomas that if he comes near me or my property again, I'll shoot him. That's not a threat, it's a promise." The lawyer gathered his papers, his face flushed with anger. "You'll regret this obstinacy, madam. Mr. Blackwell is not a man to be trifled with. Neither am I a woman to be bullied. Good day, sir." After Finch departed, Olivia locked the door and leaned against it, heart racing. Thomas wouldn't give up. He'd never accepted defeat gracefully. The lawyer's visit was just the opening move in what would surely become an ugly campaign. She was still gathering her composure when a soft knock came at the back door. Cautiously, she approached it. "Who is it?" "Ethan." "Are you all right? Peterson saw that city lawyer leaving. He didn't look happy." Olivia unlocked the door. Ethan stood in the alley, concern evident in his expression. Without thinking, she stepped into his arms, burying her face against his chest. He stiffened in surprise, then gently embraced her. "What happened?" he asked, his voice rumbling against her ear. She explained the lawyer's visit. "Thomas won't stop. He can't stand that I've built a life without him. What can I do?" Ethan's arms tightened protectively around her. Olivia pulled back slightly, looking up at him. "Just this. Just be here." His eyes darkened, and for a moment she thought he might kiss her. Instead, he tucked a strand of hair behind her ear with infinite tenderness. "I'm not going anywhere, Olivia. I promise." The next few days passed in an uneasy calm. Thomas remained at the boarding house, apparently heeding the sheriff's warning to stay away from Olivia's store. But his presence loomed over Cherry Creek like a storm cloud. Ethan took to walking Olivia home each evening and arriving early each morning to escort her downstairs to open the store. The town noticed, of course. Some, like Mrs. Henderson, expressed approval of the handsome cowboy's attentions to their shopkeeper. Others, particularly those who remembered Olivia as Thomas Blackwell's wife, were more scandalized. Hardly divorced a year and already carrying on with another man, Olivia overheard Mrs. Wilcox whisper to Mrs. Prescott as they examined bolts of calico. "No wonder Thomas is upset." Olivia's cheeks burned, but she held her head high. "Will that be 3 yards of the blue calico, Mrs. Wilcox? Or were you just browsing today?" The older woman had the grace to look embarrassed. 3 yards, please, Mrs. Ross." On Friday evening, Ethan suggested they attend the town's monthly social at the church hall. "The whole town will be there," he reasoned. "Safety in numbers. And it might do you good to get out." Olivia hesitated. "Thomas might be there." "All the more reason for you to go with your head high. Show everyone that you won't be intimidated." His logic persuaded her. That evening, she wore her best dress, a deep blue that brought out the amber highlights in her brown hair, and allowed Ethan to escort her to the social. The church hall was festooned with paper lanterns and wildflowers. A small band played in the corner while couples danced, and others gathered around tables laden with food brought by the town's women. Their entrance caused the expected stir. Olivia felt eyes following them as Ethan led her to the refreshment table. "Would you care to dance, Mrs. Ross?" he asked, his eyes twinkling at the formality. "I'd be delighted, Mr. Dawson." On the dance floor, Ethan proved surprisingly graceful for such a tall man. His hand at her waist was respectful but firm as he guided her through a waltz. "Where did a cowboy learn to dance like this?" Olivia asked, impressed. "My mother insisted all her sons learn, said we'd never find good wives if we couldn't properly escort a lady around a dance floor." "Wise woman, your mother." "She was." A shadow crossed his face. "Lost her to pneumonia 3 winters ago." "I'm sorry." "She'd have liked you." His smile returned. Strong, independent women understood each other. As the waltz ended, the crowd parted to reveal Thomas standing at the entrance, his lawyer beside him. His gaze fixed on Olivia and Ethan, his expression thunderous. "Perhaps we should leave," Olivia whispered. "Not unless you want to." Ethan's hand tightened reassuringly on hers. "This is your town, Olivia, not his." Before she could respond, Thomas strode across the room, stopping directly in front of them. He'd made an effort with his appearance. His suit was pressed, his hair neatly combed, but the redness in his face betrayed his drinking. "Enjoying yourself, Livy?" he asked, his voice carrying in the suddenly quiet hall. "Moving on awfully quick, aren't you?" "Mr. Blackwell," Ethan began, but Olivia squeezed his hand. "What I do is no longer your concern, Thomas," she said clearly. "Please excuse us." "I'm still your husband," Thomas insisted, blocking their path. "No piece of paper changes that in the eyes of God." "The law says different," Sheriff Donovan interjected, appearing at Thomas's side. And I told you to stay away from Mrs. Ross. It's a public gathering." Thomas spread his hands. "Just saying hello to my wife and her friend." The way he said friend made the word sound dirty. Murmurs rippled through the onlookers. "I believe the next dance is starting," Ethan said calmly. "Shall we, Olivia?" As they moved away, Thomas called after them, "You'll come crawling back, Livy. When he gets tired of you, and he will, they all do, you'll die alone without me." The band struck up a lively reel, but the mood of the gathering had soured. Olivia could feel the judgment in some gazes, the pity in others. "Let me take you home," Ethan murmured. "This was a mistake." Outside, the summer night was warm and star-filled. They walked in silence until they reached the back stairs to Olivia's rooms. "I'm sorry," Ethan said finally. "I shouldn't have insisted we go. It's not your fault." Olivia leaned against the stair railing. "Thomas always did know how to make a scene. He's wrong, you know. What he said about you dying alone." Ethan's voice was rough with emotion. "You're surrounded by people who care about you. This town respects you, do they? After tonight? Tonight changes nothing." He stepped closer, his face shadowed in the moonlight. "Olivia." Whatever he meant to say was lost as Thomas appeared at the mouth of the alley, swaying slightly. "Isn't this cozy?" he slurred. "The shopkeeper and the cowboy, how romantic." Ethan pushed Olivia behind him. "Go upstairs, lock your door." "No," she whispered. "I won't leave you alone with him." Thomas laughed, the sound ugly in the quiet night. "Protecting him, Livy? Does he know what a disappointment you are as a woman? How you couldn't even give me a child?" "That's enough," Ethan growled. "Or maybe you're just warming his bed to keep your precious store." Thomas withdrew a pistol from his coat. "Maybe I should save him the trouble of discovering what a frigid bitch you really are." Everything happened in a blur. Thomas raised the gun. Ethan lunged forward. Olivia screamed. The pistol discharged with a deafening crack. Ethan staggered, clutching his left arm. Blood seeped between his fingers. "Ethan!" Olivia rushed to him as he sank to one knee. Thomas laughed again, the gun still pointed at them. "Look at your hero now, Livy. Just another man bleeding for your worthless affection." Footsteps pounded down the street as townsfolk, drawn by the gunshot, came running. Sheriff Donovan appeared first, his own pistol drawn. "Drop the weapon, Blackwell." For a terrible moment, Thomas looked as if he might fire again. Then, with surprising swiftness, he turned and fled into the night. The next hours passed in a haze for Olivia. Dr. Wilson extracted the bullet from Ethan's arm in the back room of the store while she held lamps and handed instruments. The wound was painful but not life-threatening. The bullet had passed through the fleshy part of his upper arm without hitting bone. "He'll need rest and care to prevent infection," Dr. Wilson told her as he finished bandaging. "Keep the wound clean. Change the dressing twice daily." "He can stay here," Olivia said without hesitation. "I'll look after him." The doctor raised an eyebrow but didn't comment. Sheriff Donovan organized a search party, but Thomas had vanished. His lawyer claimed no knowledge of his whereabouts, though the sheriff suspected Finch had provided money for Thomas's escape. "He's probably halfway to Carson City by now," Donovan told Olivia the next morning. "We'll keep looking, but I understand." Olivia glanced toward her back room where Ethan rested on a makeshift cot. "What will happen when you find him?" "Attempted murder charges at minimum. He won't be bothering you again, Mrs. Ross. That I promise." After the sheriff left, Olivia returned to Ethan's side. Fever had set in overnight and he dozed fitfully, occasionally mumbling in his sleep. She bathed his forehead with cool water, changed his bandages as instructed, and prayed he would recover. By evening, his fever broke. He opened clear eyes to find Olivia dozing in a chair beside him, her hand resting near his on the cot. Carefully, he entwined his fingers with hers. The slight movement woke her. "Ethan, how do you feel?" "Like I've been shot," he replied with a weak smile. "But I'll live." Tears filled her eyes. "You could have been killed because of me. Not because of you, because your ex is a coward who solves problems with violence." He squeezed her hand. "Don't you dare blame yourself. You barely know me, yet you risked your life. I know enough." His voice was soft but certain. "I know that from the moment I saw you, something in me recognized something in you, something worth protecting, worth caring for." Olivia blinked back tears. "I thought I'd never trust a man again after Thomas, never let anyone close but you." She touched his cheek gently. "You made me remember what it feels like to hope." Over the following days, as Ethan recovered, their relationship deepened. Olivia kept the store open during the day, then spent evenings reading to him, playing cards, or simply talking. She learned about his family's ranch in Colorado, his dreams of someday having land of his own, his favorite books and foods. In turn, she shared stories of her childhood in Ohio, her father's store, her early dreams of becoming a teacher before Thomas swept her away with promises of adventure in the West. "I thought I loved him," she admitted one evening, "but now I wonder if I ever knew what love truly was." "What do you think it is?" Ethan asked, sitting up against his pillows, stronger now but still healing. Olivia considered. "Respect, trust, feeling safe to be yourself without fear." She met his eyes. "Finding home in another person's presence. That sounds about right to me." His smile warmed her from within. By the end of the week, Ethan was strong enough to return to his room at the hotel, though Olivia found herself missing his constant presence. The search for Thomas had been abandoned, with most assuming he'd fled the territory to avoid prosecution. Life in Cherry Creek gradually returned to normal. Ethan resumed work at the livery once his arm healed enough for light duties. Olivia expanded her store's inventory, adding the pharmacy section she'd dreamed of. Their courtship progressed slowly, respectfully, under the watchful eyes of the town. Summer faded into autumn. The aspen leaves turned gold against the blue Nevada sky. On a crisp October evening, Ethan invited Olivia for a ride into the hills above town. "Should be safe enough now," he assured her. "Thomas hasn't been seen in months." They rode to a promontory overlooking Cherry Creek and the valley beyond. The setting sun painted the landscape in fiery hues as they spread a blanket on the ground and unpacked the picnic supper Olivia had prepared. "It's beautiful up here," she said, gazing at the vista. "I found this spot my first week in town." Ethan poured coffee from a thermos. "Used to ride up and think about what my future might hold, if I should move on or stay. I'm glad you stayed." Olivia accepted the cup he offered. "Best decision I ever made." He hesitated, then reached into his pocket. "Olivia, there's something I've been wanting to ask you." Her heart quickened as he withdrew a small wooden box. "I know you've had reason to distrust men's promises, to guard your independence." His blue eyes held hers steadily. "I respect that more than I can say. But I love you, Olivia Ross. I love your strength, your kindness, your courage." He opened the box, revealing a simple gold ring set with a small but perfect diamond. "I don't want to own you or change you. I want to stand beside you as your partner in all things, if you'll have me." Tears blurred Olivia's vision. "Ethan." "You don't have to answer now," he said quickly. "I know it's soon, yes." The word came out as a whisper, then stronger. "Yes, I'll marry you." Joy transformed his face as he slipped the ring onto her finger. "You're sure? Your store, your independence will remain mine, as yours will remain yours." She cupped his cheek. "But our lives, our hearts, those we can share." He kissed her then, a kiss full of promise and tenderness. When they parted, Olivia looked at the ring sparkling on her finger, a symbol not of possession, as her first wedding band had been, but of partnership freely chosen. Thomas said I'd die alone, she murmured. That no one would want me. He was wrong about many things. Ethan drew her close. But most of all about that. Their wedding took place on Christmas Eve in the town church, decorated with evergreen boughs and red ribbons. Cherry Creek turned out in full to witness the union of their shopkeeper and the cowboy who'd won her heart. Mrs. Henderson cried openly during the ceremony. Mr. Peterson stood proudly as Ethan's best man. Even Dr. Wilson, not known for sentimentality, was seen wiping his eyes as the couple exchanged vows. I promise to respect your independence, to support your dreams as you support mine. Ethan's deep voice carried through the packed church. To protect without possessing, to love without demanding, to be your partner, your friend, and your sanctuary for all our days. Olivia's voice trembled slightly as she responded, I promise to trust when fear would be easier, to stand with you as an equal, to build our life together on a foundation of respect and honesty, to love you freely and fully for as long as we both shall live. Sheriff Donovan pronounced them husband and wife, and the church erupted in cheers as Ethan kissed his bride. The reception at the hotel was the social event of the year. The dining room had been transformed with garlands and candles, and the chef had outdone himself with a feast worthy of San Francisco's finest establishments. As they danced their first waltz as husband and wife, Ethan whispered, Happy, Mrs. Dawson? Very, Olivia replied, her eyes shining. Though I think I'll keep Ross for business purposes. Olivia Ross Dawson has a nice ring to it, don't you think? I think it sounds perfect. He twirled her gently, like the woman who bears it. They made their home in rooms above the store, which Ethan helped expand into adjacent space that became available that spring. Olivia's pharmacy section proved so successful that she hired a trained pharmacist from Sacramento, allowing her to focus on the general merchandise. Ethan continued at the livery, eventually buying into the business when Peterson decided to retire. His gentle way with horses became legendary in the region, and ranchers began bringing their most difficult animals to him for training. Their first child, a son they named James after Olivia's father, was born the following November. Holding her son in her arms with Ethan beaming proudly beside her, Olivia felt a completeness she'd once thought impossible. He's perfect, Ethan whispered, touching the infant's tiny hand with a tenderness that made Olivia's heart swell. He is, she agreed. Our little miracle. Life was not without challenges. The silver mine that had brought prosperity to Cherry Creek began to play out by 1880, causing economic uncertainty. Ethan and Olivia adapted, diversifying their businesses. They added a mail-order catalog to the store's operations, allowing ranchers and homesteaders throughout the region to order supplies without traveling to town. Their family grew with the birth of a daughter, Eleanor, in 1881, followed by another son, William, 2 years later. Their home expanded along with their family, as they purchased the building outright and converted the entire second floor into a spacious apartment. In the spring of 1883, as Olivia was showing 6-year-old James how to arrange merchandise in the store window, a dusty rider arrived in Cherry Creek. Sheriff Donovan, older now but still vigilant, noticed the stranger first and approached him cautiously. The news spread quickly through town. Thomas Blackwell was dead. The rider, a deputy from Arizona Territory, brought official notification. Thomas had been killed in a bar fight in Tombstone after accusing another patron of cheating at cards. The deputy had found Olivia's name among Thomas's possessions, along with newspaper clippings about her store and marriage to Ethan. Seems he never did let go of his obsession with you, madam, the deputy told her when she received him in the store. Had quite a collection of articles. Sheriff thought you should know, for your peace of mind." That night, after the children were asleep, Olivia sat with Ethan on the small balcony off their bedroom, watching the stars emerge. "How do you feel?" Ethan asked gently, knowing the news had shaken her. "Relieved, mostly." Olivia leaned against his shoulder. "Sad for the man he could have been. He was so damaged, Ethan, by his father's cruelty, by his own weaknesses. But not sorry. No." She was silent for a moment. "Is that terrible of me? It's honest." Ethan wrapped his arm around her. "He caused you great harm, threatened our family. You're allowed to feel relief that the threat is gone." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds of Cherry Creek, distant piano music from the hotel, the occasional whinny from the livery stable, the soft breathing of their children through the open window. "He was wrong about me," Olivia said finally. "About my life. In every possible way," Ethan agreed. "You're surrounded by love, respected by this town, mother to 3 beautiful children, partner to the best of men." She turned to kiss him, still feeling after 7 years the same flutter in her heart that his touch had always evoked. As summer ripened into autumn once more, Cherry Creek celebrated its 20th anniversary as an incorporated town. A grand picnic was held in the meadow by the creek, with games for children, contests for adults, and enough food to feed the county. Olivia, now president of the town's business association, gave a short speech honoring Cherry Creek's founders and looking toward its future. Standing at the podium, she could see Ethan with their children, James, now 9 and as tall as his age, Eleanor with her father's blue eyes, and 5-year-old William clutching a wooden horse Ethan had carved. "Cherry Creek has weathered booms and busts," she told the assembled townsfolk. "But our strength has never been in silver or gold. It's been in community, in the bonds we forge with one another, in the belief that here, on this frontier, we can build something lasting." Her gaze met Ethan's across the crowd, and the love in his eyes warmed her more than the autumn sun. "I came to Cherry Creek seeking refuge," she continued. "I found a home, a place where a woman could build a business, raise a family, and be judged by her character rather than her circumstances." She smiled at the faces watching her friends, neighbors, customers who had become like extended family. "For that gift, I will be forever grateful." The applause that followed her speech was enthusiastic, led by Ethan's proud whistling. As she rejoined her family, he wrapped an arm around her waist. "Beautiful words from a beautiful woman," he murmured against her hair. "Flatterer." But she leaned into his embrace, savoring the solid warmth of him. "Mama, Papa, look," William called, pointing skyward where boys were flying kites in the clear blue sky. "Can I have one?" "Let's see if we can find Mr. Chen," Ethan suggested, referring to the Chinese merchant who had set up a booth selling paper kites. "He promised to save a special one for you." As Ethan took William's hand, James asked, "Can I go watch the shooting contest?" "Mr. Peterson said he'd show me his new rifle." "Stay with Mr. Peterson," Olivia cautioned, "and remember what Papa taught you about gun safety." "Yes, Mama." James dashed off toward the range set up at the edge of the meadow. Eleanor tugged at Olivia's skirt. "Mrs. Henderson says there's going to be a cake contest. Can I help you next year when I'm bigger?" "Of course, sweetheart." Olivia smoothed her daughter's dark curls. "You're already becoming quite the baker." As the children scattered to various activities, Ethan drew Olivia toward a quieter spot beneath a golden aspen tree. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his pocket. "A little early, but I couldn't wait." He handed her a small package wrapped in tissue paper. Inside was a gold locket, elegantly engraved with their initials intertwined. "For our anniversary," he explained. 10 years next month. Ethan, it's beautiful." She opened the locket to find tiny photographs of their 3 children on one side and Ethan on the other. "I love it, thank you." "Thank you," he replied, helping her fasten it around her neck. "For 10 years of happiness I never thought I'd find." His fingers lingered on the nape of her neck. "For our children, for being the heart of our home." "Our home," Olivia echoed, the words still sweet after all these years. From their vantage point, they could see the whole of Cherry Creek, the town nestled in the valley. The creek glittering in the sunlight, the mountains rising beyond. Their children played among friends, secure in the knowledge that they were loved, protected, part of something larger than themselves. "Thomas once told me I'd die alone," Olivia said softly. "It was what he feared most for himself, I think, being unloved, forgotten. And instead, you built this." Ethan gestured toward their children, the town, the life they'd created together. "A legacy of love. We built it," she corrected, reaching for his hand. "Together." As the autumn sun warmed their faces, Olivia thought of the frightened woman who had arrived in Cherry Creek with nothing but a small trunk and desperate determination. How far she had come from those dark days. How rich her life had become. Not in silver or gold, as she'd told the townsfolk, but in the currency that truly mattered: love freely given and received, children's laughter, a partner who saw her strength as beauty. A community that had become family. A life not merely survived but joyfully lived. A life, Olivia realized as Ethan pulled her close for a kiss that still made her heart race after a decade together. That was just beginning its sweetest chapter.